And I think that's really driving the trend. I've said before, if Bitcoin's not going to zero, it's going to a million. The real question is it legitimate asset? If it's a legitimate institutional asset, everybody is underallocated to it.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, in today's video, I do have a little bit of a critical moment for Bitcoin, as you guys can see right here. And we haven't really said there's any major alerts to be paying attention to, but there is something very interesting. Now, although you can see right here that we have actually had Bitcoin putting in these higher lows, right? You can see this wick down here and then this wick here, and even the candle bodies themselves are in fact putting in higher lows, but yet we haven't been able to take out this peak right here where Bitcoin got up to around $44,770. You can see we've tried twice in just the past 2 days. And what's very interesting is if you have a look at this Bitcoin pattern that we're having here on the daily, when we come over and we look at what the S&P has been doing here on the weekly, it's eerily similar. You could see right here, right, with this massive run up and then the pull down, and then we're trying to break this high. Now, something else that's also quite interesting is if we actually just look at how far away the S&P is from its all-time highs, it's about 1.8% away from making a new all-time high. And in this actual consolidation that Bitcoin is forming right here from that $44,700 high, Bitcoin is about 2% away from that. So it's almost as if the Bitcoin price is waiting to see if the stocks break to new all-time highs before continuing. Now, I know for a while we said that they're not really 100% correlated recently, but this may be one of those weird scenarios in which maybe that sort of risk-on mentality is waiting for that full confirmation. Another thing as well is we've had this massive decline on the DXY, and we did call this kiss of death right here, and ever since we had it back around November of last year, we've pretty much had a continuous downwards fall, but you can see that it's ultimately trying to retest this downwards parallel channel. So there obviously are a few technical things that we kind of have to talk about in today's video, but I also want to discuss a lot of the other situation that's going on with Bitcoin. We know the macro, we know what's going on worldwide. Specifically, we know that Elizabeth Warren and friends and her anti-crypto army have been really pushing to pretty much ban crypto without actually banning it, just making it so difficult to use that it basically is a de facto ban in and of itself. Well, in today's video, even though we've been having some fun lately, I am going to expose Elizabeth Warren, and honestly, I wasn't really that shocked when I found the news really that came out behind all of this, but I do want to share that with you because, you know, although we are excited about the ETF, and trust me, I am one of the most bullish of bulls when it comes to this Bitcoin ETF, there is one thing that is a little bit scary if you actually read between the lines if this ETF was to get approved, or not was, I mean, it is going to get approved at some point. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it is something we have to pay attention to because you have to be ready for any and all possibilities. And, you know, after this ETF approval, you could be having what they're referring to as an untold war that could quickly unfold. So we're going to get into all that today if that sounds good to you. And of course, you know, honestly, we're just going to talk about the real reason why Bitcoin is pumping. Everyone's trying to figure out all these crazy reasons. Is it the ETF? Is it BlackRock? Is it, you know, early institutions trying to front run? Well, we're just going to basically lay it out, and I'm going to tell you what's going on, guys. But before we do, I just want to say I did make a little bit of a mistake when it came to the LevX promotion, guys. So essentially, it's not the first 500 people to sign up. It's actually the first 500 deposits. So if you hadn't had a chance to sign up yet, that's okay because they're going to honor the first 500 deposits that actually enter into a trade, and they're going to match your trade up to $5,000 on any coin that you want in either direction. So friendly reminder, guys, if you do want, make sure that it says invited by Crypto Zombie or else you won't get that discount. That'll be below in the description. But everyone that did already sign up, you are still going to be fully eligible for the 10% cash fee cashback, whatever it is called, for life. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. That was my mistake. So if you didn't sign up yet, that's fine. You still have time. You can deposit and we can still get that going. So before we actually get into today's video, before we get into like the doom and gloom aspect of Elizabeth Warren and the crypto ban and the possibilities of the negative effects of the ETF, I wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Mark Yusko. Now, he came out, this was in 2019 on CNBC when Bitcoin had fallen over 85% and it just started rising back from 3,000 to 8,000. And everyone is totally skeptical, right? Still like some people are today, very skeptical about Bitcoin. And listen to what Mark had to say and listen to the way that they were sort of responding to him.
Before we go, Bitcoin was under 8,000 earlier today.
Buy it.
Regardless, though, of the drop. If I said to you Bitcoin dropped to 5,000, you'd say buy it.
Buy it. Because here's the thing. The daily price of Bitcoin doesn't matter. It's been alive for 10 years. In every year, other than one, 2015, it's made a higher low. The market cap has grown every single year. Every fundamental indicator of Bitcoin, usage, wallets, block size, transaction size, number of transactions, every single one, hash rate, making new highs. All of the indicators of the network and the network value are rising. The price of any asset fluctuates. Let's take Amazon. Amazon's been a public company for 20 years. In every year, including this year, it's at a double-digit drawdown. The average peak to trough, minus 31%. Twice, minus 90%. When was the right time to sell? Never. Who's owned it since the IPO to today? Jeff and his mom and dad. That's it.
All right. We're going to leave it there, Mark.
All right,
Good to see you.
thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Mark Yusko, Morgan Creek Capital.
Outcast.
So that was almost 4 years ago. And, you know, this happens time and time again. And I know usually I would play a video like that after like a massive crash to reassure everybody, you know, don't worry. But, you know, hey, now that we're all, you know, basically getting back, attempting to push back to potential all-time highs at some point, I thought it was good to just remind everybody because I still talk to a lot of people out there today. In fact, I was just on the phone with somebody yesterday who says that they are still skeptical about Bitcoin. They are still scared to invest. And yes, my friends, they would in fact feel more comfortable investing if it was in the form of an ETF. So again, I know it sounds crazy, but the amount of capital that is literally sitting on the sidelines, waiting for this regulatory approval, waiting for this vehicle that they feel comfortable with, it is insane, guys. So when people tell you that the ETF is not bullish or it's just going to be a massive sell the news event, maybe in the short term, but long term, it can honestly only benefit especially the Bitcoin price. Let's just be honest. So let's talk about this. I thought this was hilarious. So this Elizabeth Warren tweet, she says crypto companies are spending millions building an army of former defense and law enforcement officials to lobby against new rules shutting down crypto finance terrorism. This revolving door boosts the crypto industry, but endangers our national security. And I love that they had the readers adding context based on this source right here. Cryptocurrency is objectively less than 1% of all monetary illicit activity. There is also nothing supporting the claim that it could threaten national security. Cash is untraceable. Blockchains are public ledgers. So again, twisting and contorting the truth so that you can get it the way that you want it. But what's hilarious is if we come over here, there was this video, and look at who the co-sponsor of Elizabeth Warren's Bitcoin ban bill is.
Senator Warren and I have authored the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act that represents a step in the right direction. Again, I think that this is a light touch. The first thing we did is we went to the American Bank Association and said, help us craft this. And I don't know if you saw Senator Warren's hearing with Jamie Dimon yesterday, but Mr. Dimon said basically, in his opinion, crypto is only a tool for criminals. And I think that, again, it's that light touch by the federal government as opposed to a heavy touch as well. That's about all I know about crypto.
That's about all I know about crypto, which is basically admitting that you don't know anything. And of course, it turns out that the big banks helped Elizabeth Warren write the bill, because who is most likely to suffer from the self-sovereignty of Bitcoin, from the fact that we don't require the middleman? We don't need to pay these fees. I mean, granted, yes, the middleman, I guess you could say maybe are the miners, but they're validating transactions. They're not the, police that say what is and what can't be done. I mean, honestly, go to a bank right now. Try to withdraw. I don't know how much money you have in your bank account, but try to withdraw $20,000 and don't tell them why you're doing it, right? They're going to want to know who, what, where, when, why, how, right? But it's your money, right? So yeah, I think that just kind of lays it out right there. And, over here, you did have Mike Novogratz, and he was discussing over on CNBC as well exactly why we're seeing this. And one of the biggest questions that he was being asked essentially was about this Bitcoin ban and why are they really doing it? And could it even actually be done?
And you don't think there's any possibility now that that either politicians or corporate leaders, Jamie Dimon and the like, say, look, this is used to fund terrorist activities. The only use case is for money laundering and nefarious means. And Elizabeth Warren says, look, Jamie Dimon is right. We need to put a stop to this. That's the horse is out of the barn. That's never happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. Listen, this is a global asset. I mean, there are so many unbelievably respected investors that believe Bitcoin has value. And so, again, I would sit, Ray Dalio and Jeff Yass and Abby Johnson and Bill Miller, and I can give you 50 of them on the other side of the table from Jamie Dimon or Elizabeth Warren and say, like, who gives you the right to say what has value? The terrorist financing illicit use cases has kind of been debunked. Yes, some crypto is used for bad things, but not nearly as much as fiat, right? I mean, Jamie Dimon's bank has paid $38 billion in fines since he's been there. $38 billion. Add up all the bad trades with crypto, it doesn't add up to $38 billion. And so should we ban JP Morgan? I mean, that's a crazy statistic.
So Gary Gensler and some of the other regulators, is it easier or safer to just not do anything, or doesn't that sort of leave investors in this country, actually around the world, just that makes it more risky than if they were to actually just take the bull by the horns and decide what to do?
There's a group of both Democrats and Republicans in D.C. that want to get legislation through. There's two pieces of legislation that would really give us a good framework around both stable coins and the rest of crypto. And it's Elizabeth Warren and the White House, the Biden White House, that is stopping that. And I think post this election, we will either have a new administration, either Democrat, Republican, and even if Biden wins, my guess is there's a new Secretary of Treasury and a new head of the SEC, and we'll finally make some progress. There are plenty of Democrats that want crypto legislation, just not enough at stake to take on Elizabeth Warren.
And I can tell you that the times are changing, my friends. You could see this right over here. There was a poll that came out. 70% of Americans want a president knowledgeable about crypto. They are waking up. This is, in fact, a big topic, especially for this election. The Grayscale poll also found that cryptocurrencies will have unprecedented importance in the U.S. presidential election. In total, approximately 40% of investors say that they expect to hold crypto in their portfolios in the future, while 19% currently do. As many as 46 of the polled voters claim that they are waiting, and here you go, this is what I was just saying, they are waiting for clearer regulations before they start engaging with the crypto market. So again, like I said, I was just on the phone with someone the other day, and we, by the way, I don't want to out who this person was, but we were talking about Bitcoin when it was 33,000, and he was like, yeah, but I don't really understand it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm worried about the legal ramifications, etc. And now Bitcoin's at 44,000. It was at 33. Now it's at 44. So are these people basically just waiting to buy the top when the green light comes out? There's also a clear generational divide, with 31% of Gen Z holding cryptos compared to only 6% of baby boomers. So this is where we get into the untold war of crypto for the ETFs. But again, what was that thing that is a little bit concerning? Now, this is obviously just speculation. It's conspiracy. It's not fact. But, maybe they're saying that, the ETF approval is going to get approved, right? And then at the same time, maybe Elizabeth Warren's Bitcoin bill gets approved as well. So this is essentially making it illegal to self-custody Bitcoin, making the only legal avenue to hold Bitcoin to hold it through one of these ETFs. So basically, they're like, hey, see, we got you what you want. You're able to hold your crypto. You're able to have Bitcoin, but you can't do it in your own wallet. You have to do it in an ETF, right? So that's a possibility, and I don't think that's going to happen personally. I think there would be a lot of pushback against that, but that is some of the fears I've been hearing. However, on the flip side, the untold war could in fact turn out to be quite positive. As you can see right here, this article came out from Coin Paprika. Now, this is an opinion, but it says with the anticipation of the approval of the applications from BlackRock, WisdomTree, VanEck, Fidelity, and all these others, what's going to end up happening is they're going to have to end up competing fiercely. There are a lot of these ETFs, these institutions that are going to want to take your money, but how are they going to convince people that theirs is the better option? Well, what's going to end up happening is potentially a war on your attention, right? Advertisements per se. So the goal of the firms is clear: to become the top choice. To achieve this, they must acquire the largest amount of Bitcoin under management. This would require an aggressive marketing strategy to beat their rivals. Bitcoin ETFs will be promoted everywhere, from television commercials to subway ads, YouTube promotions, and even grand displays in Times Square. This intense effort to market their Bitcoin product is expected to bring in the mainstream like never before. And of course, my friends, we got the second iteration of the Bitwise ETF commercial.
Thought you would like to know. Satoshi sends his regards. Look for Bitwise, my friends.
And I can honestly tell you, I was just in the airport, and up and down, all I was seeing on the TV, I should have took a picture of it and tweeted it or something, was Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, plastered all over, literally all over the airport. I mean, that's what people are seeing, and that's only coming from just one entity. Wait till they start seeing the Dos Equis guy. Wait till they start seeing the BlackRock, the Fidelity, the ARK, and all they're seeing is Bitcoin, 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 and they're going to go to their financial advisors and say, hey, what the heck? How come we don't have some of this, right? And not only, but that will also greenlight these financial advisors finally to comfortably be able to essentially promote it, right, to their clients. And you could see the firms feel that there is a 90% chance that the spot Bitcoin ETF will be approved sometime after January 8th. And like James Seyffert was mentioning, BlackRock met again with the SEC today. By the way, that makes their 5th time meeting with the SEC, whereas previously the SEC wouldn't even answer, right? People would reach out to them, they wouldn't even get back to them, and now they've met 5 times alone with just BlackRock. So you can see that now these meetings are up to 24 meetings in total, which is the most communication that they've ever had. Oh, and not to mention, BlackRock has gone cash only. That is basically a wrap. Debate over, according to Eric Balchunas. In kind with what we'll have to wait. It's all about getting ducks in row. Good sign. So essentially, what does this mean? Well, no, it doesn't mean that it's cash settled, okay? Because that would basically just be a futures ETF, and that wouldn't be the whole purpose of the spot Bitcoin ETF. But what it does mean is that it's going to be cash coming in to buy Bitcoin. So in other words, if you have Bitcoin, you're not going to be able to send your Bitcoin in. You're going to have to, I guess, convert it to cash and then buy it, or just simply use your dollars to then purchase the Bitcoin. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but it is a step in, the right direction as far as these guys are concerned. And let's be honest, the people who are already in Bitcoin, we're not the ones that are interested in the ETFs. It's the people that are sitting in cash, that are sitting in like treasury, bills, bonds, etc., equities, whatever, and they're looking to move into Bitcoin, right? So that just goes to show you. And the other thing too, not to mention, is, people ask, well, why is it pumping? If the institutions aren't allowed to get in yet officially, legally, why is the price going up? Well, I think a lot of it really just has to do with the lack of trust, the deceptive practices of traditional finance, of the banks, right? We're seeing what they're really doing in the background, and realistically, the public is just getting less and less and less. Really, what I'm trying to say is they're trusting banks less and less, right? And actually, Jeff Booth broke it down over on Swan Signal, and he says it better than I can.
I think that's actually one of the things that so many people have a hard time understanding Bitcoin, especially if rule of law has, or a perception of rule of law has existed in your life. They in those regions, it would be harder to believe that in Bitcoin, because you could trust the financial institution, you could trust the institutions. There was rule of law to be able to protect you, but money is superordinate to rule of law, and if it wasn't, then you would expect where money was most broken, you'd have the best laws protecting people. And it looks exactly the inverse. And so what that says, and it's pretty obvious, what ends up happening with the corruption of money becomes corruption of laws, becomes corruption of the state, as everybody races in to be able to, and and the money protects actually the people creating the laws, because if you have more money, you lobby and you get your politician elected to be able to control the next step, and laws change in favor of the people who have the money. And that's where we are in the world. And there's a lot of people who don't know that that's happening, and it's been happening for a long time. And the cascade of all of the chaos that's caused in the world is actually a cascade of that signal, that broken signal in money, corrupting a system. And there's people that believe that the laws can protect them from that. And the laws are designed to actually protect the abusers of money, not the other way around. And so what Bitcoin changes is it removes places like I wrote about, that we've never had decentralization and trust together, decentralization and security together. So we had to trust an institution instead. And we hoped that that institution would protect us from the very abuses that would happen. And it turns out that those institutions as well, because they need funding, are part of an infrastructure that requires, so if you have manipulation under that, if you have manipulation of money underneath the institutions, laws change over time and hurt individual people. This is the first time in history that we've had something different, that you could essentially obviate the need for that institution with the decentralization and security together and put us in control. But why it's so hard to see is we're used to trusting our bank. We're used to trusting somebody else to do that. We're used to trusting an institution isn't corrupt. And that change as they become more corrupt becomes hard to see. And we're not used to trusting ourselves. So that's why self-custody is hard for people. They think their bank is safer when their bank is not safe. And you think about regulation. Entire regulation sits on top. So you have regulation to protect your money on top of a system designed to steal your money.
And this is why you're seeing people like Michael Saylor, Anthony Scaramucci. You guys have Stanley Druckenmiller. I mean, I can't even think of, all these different people, these billionaires essentially, that have been interested in Bitcoin, right? It is because they are waking up to not only the deceptive practices of the banks, and this also goes back to just the average everyday retail, but at the same time, they're realizing that it's a better alternative. So, basically getting back to Michael Saylor, who was essentially the first company to put themselves on the Bitcoin standard, he explains why it's obvious that we're having this rally.
We're going through a digital transformation of everything. Apple represents a digital transformation of telephones and cameras, and Google's the transformation of books and libraries. Bitcoin represents a digital transformation of capital. 99.9% of the capital in the world is tied up in real estate and stocks and precious metals and bonds. And so we're 0.1% transformed. People, as they get educated on digital assets, are realizing that they ought to be allocating more and more of their capital to this digital asset. And so they're moving from 0.1 to 0.2%. And I think that's really driving the trend. I've said before, if Bitcoin's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million. The real question is it legitimate asset? If it's a legitimate institutional asset, everybody is underallocated to it.
And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's true. You've seen that meme, right, of the people waiting online, and the one line is really long, and the one line there's no one on it. And it's the same thing. Like I said, if you ever gone to like a county fair, right, and there's two booths and they're selling, let's say, the same exact thing hypothetically, the one that has the longer line, most people will go over to that booth, assuming that they're missing out, right? There's that sense of FOMO, even though the one that has no one at it could theoretically have better food, right? It's all that market psychology. So let's dive in. Let's have a look super quick. Unfortunately, not really much has changed outside of maybe looking at Bitcoin compared to the S&P, but just having a look right now, this is in fact our third week of consolidating right here above our blue zone. Now we've had this blue zone here literally since the beginning of this move. I mean, this isn't something I've just drawn on recently. If you've been watching the channel, you might even be bored of seeing this after a while. But you can see that every time we attempt to fall back into this blue zone, we do keep getting bought back up. So obviously we've mentioned that, some form of a healthy correction, even down to 30,000 would be in the cards. But it seems like every time we're getting these dips, the Bitcoin bulls are just buying them back up again. In fact, we've actually broken out right here of this downwards trend that we had, and we did not fill the CME futures gap. Now, of course, it's not 100% guaranteed that you're going to fill the CME futures gap. I don't know what it is. It's like 88 to 94%. Someone please correct me. I know somebody in the comments has done the official math, but I know it is very, very high. It is more likely to close than it is to not close. But the other thing is, are we going into this parabolic rally? We've never seen a parabolic rally like this really before the halving. I guess you could say we had a little bit back in that 2019, although that was a fake out. But again, we really haven't broken out of this parabola right yet. So Bitcoin could come down, maybe retest this $36,000 area, but until we break this parabola, it kind of looks like the bulls are still remaining in control, right? And having a look right here, what's crazy interesting is even on the daily, if you just look at this money flow right here, look at this. It is continuing to grow. It is continuing to get more and more and more. So we even got a little green dot down here, a smaller one, which actually did kind of coincide with this move if you guys were checking out Market Cypher. But we do remain above all the dailies, and we haven't even attempted just to retest this smaller upwards trend yet. So where could all of this money flow be coming from? Well, you know what? I normally don't do this in the middle of TA, turn my TA over to somebody else, but I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin Svensson because he really explained it in the simplest possible terms ever.
In my Patreon Discord chat, people were asking me, why are we bouncing? Why are we going up? What's the news today? What's the news? A lot of times you'll notice that in these trends, you don't really need news to move. It's all about momentum. And you might be able to just pretend that there's a news story that caused the pump. But think about it. Every time Bitcoin went up in the 2017 bull market, it didn't require a news event every day for the price to go up. Sometimes there's just a high level of demand. If the demand or the buy pressure is higher than the supply or the sell pressure, the trend is up. If the sell pressure is higher than the demand, well, the trend is down. It is that simple. There doesn't have to be news.
And it's kind of like that Occam's razors theory, right? It's like if you have two possibilities, the simpler, most likely possibility is usually the reason, right? It's usually the easiest solution is the actual reason why. And in this case, it's literally just supply and demand. We don't know exactly where all this money's coming from. Now, we did hear from Samson Mow that a lot of it is potentially coming from offshore, other places outside of the US. But at the end of the day, there's clearly more demand than there is supply, which explains why the price is going up. It's that simple. And we know that the supply, the distribution is getting cut in half. And we know that there's only about 2 million Bitcoin left on exchanges with about 70% of the holders holding. So when you talk about these gamma squeezes, when you talk about this supply shock, it's very, very real. And, we have been talking about this since the bottom. Actually, I had a clip I was going to play you guys talking about how I kind of was calling the bottom, but I'll save that for another day because pretty epic. But anyway, anyone who's pretty much stuck around, you guys have obviously enjoyed this move. But, getting back here, we are still in no man's land between the volume range profile. So I still do have a falling wedge target breakout, this falling wedge right here. I've talked about this tons of times, anywhere between 47 to 52 is still possible. At that point, you might be looking for a bit of a correction, but nevertheless, even if you do break the parabola, you still have this legacy trend right here that we've never actually broken down. And again, on the larger time frames, everything is still pointing towards the beginning of a very massive move, right? You have the MACD crossing over, you have the RSI over 70 for over 3 weeks now, which is quite a long time. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so almost 2 straight months, okay? I would say that right here, this was confirming the change in the move, and we had that crossover. So ultimately what I'm trying to say, guys, is I still remain incredibly bullish. I think 2014 and 2015 are going to be one of the most amazing years for Bitcoin ever. And yes, we have seen 30% pullbacks in the past and things of that nature, but I wouldn't be letting it get too much inside my head because, well, we all know, as I showed you in the beginning, with that very first clip of Mark Yusko when everybody was laughing at him, calling him an outcast, right? When Bitcoin fell 84% and then bounced back to 8,000, well, who's laughing now? So that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. And also, friendly reminder again about the Meta signals. They are going to be closing the NFT sale temporarily until they're going to reopen sometime, I believe in January. But if you do want to get involved now, you can still get all of those signals pretty much indefinitely. You will get lifetime access. So if you want to check that out, that link is below in the description as well. And of course, friendly reminder, if you do want to get your crypto off of the exchange, I do recommend checking out Engrave Wallet. So that is it for me, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. My name is K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto. Make sure you check out these tutorials popping up right here, right now. And of course, peace out.